Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Indian equities continue their rebound for the fourth day as US Central Bank's decision to keep rates unchanged sparks a rally across Asia. The sensex and the nifty surge over 1% higher. The nifty crosses 23,200 for the first time since the 13th of February. All sectoral indices close in the green, led by the IT sector.
Sentiment is quite negative at this time. And that probably has to do with, turmoil at the beginning of an administration that's making, big changes in areas of policy.
U.S. Federal Reserve maintains the status quo on benchmark interest rates for the second consecutive time as it anticipates Trump's tariffs to push inflation higher, but hints at least 2 more rate cuts this year. U.S. President Trump disagrees with the Fed, says the central bank would be much better off cutting rates. The rupee strengthens to an 8-week high before giving up some gains on profit booking, marks its longest gaining streak in 14 months. Oil prices inch higher on the back of renewed tensions in West Asia and a decline in U.S. fuel inventories. The government seeks details from Ola Electric over discrepancies in reported sales and vehicle registrations. The company claims that 25,000 vehicles were sold in February, but only 8,600 vehicles were registered. As per data on the Vahan portal, Ola Electric says that all vehicles would be delivered only after their registrations are completed. The Cabinet Committee on Security approves a 7,000 crore rupee deal to procure advanced Howitzers from the Indian defence equipment manufacturer. Sources say that Bharat Forge will account for 60% of the order book and Tata Advanced Systems for the rest. Social media platform X moves the Karnataka High Court against the Indian government's power to take down content under the Information Technology Act, argues that such orders are in violation of a Supreme Court judgment. The Apex Court in March 2015 had declared that content could only be blocked through a competent court order or under Section 69A, which deals with the clause of national security. Donald Trump says he expects India to lower tariffs on U.S. imports substantially, but adds that his administration will impose reciprocal tariffs nevertheless on the 2nd of April. India and the U.S. had reached an agreement to finalize the first phase of multi-sector bilateral trade agreement by fall this year. President Zelenskky says he has accepted the ceasefire on Ukraine energy targets that Putin agreed to earlier this week, calls his telephonic conversation with President Trump as positive, very substantive and frank. This was the first conversation between both leaders since their showdown in the White House last month. Israeli airstrikes into the Gaza Strip continue. Close to 60 people reportedly killed overnight as per local hospitals. Hamas says mediators have stepped up efforts to halt the Israeli offensive. Well, those are the headlines, and we'll start with a closer look at what's been the fourth consecutive day of gains on Dalal Street. Indian equities joining the Asian markets that rallied after the US Federal Reserve decided to keep rates unchanged, but also signaled that they're not done with cutting rates just yet. This makes it the longest winning streak for Indian equities in nearly 2 months. The Nifty closing 283 points higher, 23,190. The Sensex up almost 900 points, a 360-point gain there for the Nifty Bank, and the Nifty Mid-Cap Index building on yesterday's move, 320 points higher there for the mid-cap index. Prashant is standing by to detail the day's trading action. Prashant, another good day for the bulls.
It's been a fantastic week so far, and today, of course, we once again build on what we did yesterday. The Nifty Bank, mid and small cap indices, everything looking very, very good. And we've kind of come out of some of the shorter term ranges now, and we are in a position after the last 1,500 odd points from the lows that we've seen on the Nifty, that we can look at some of the larger degree time frames. I mean, for example, after the big move that we had, and by the way, the momentum really picked up mid-afternoon at about 1 o'clock or so. But after the gains we've had, now we are in a position to sort of look at levels like 23,600, etc., which are retracements of the big fall from the highs late last year to the lows that we've had. So, fair bit of repair and recovery, especially as far as large caps are concerned, but broader markets also doing very well. Advanced decline actually was about 2:1, not, hugely, not 3:1 or 4:1, but very, very decent once again. Now, on the large caps, there was Bharti, Titan, Britannia, BPCL, Bajaj and Aisha, which did very well. On the downside, there were very few names, 1 or 2 names with losses, but 1.5%, 2% odd. Now, in the broader space, what did we see? You had moves coming through in names like KEC, which was a big volume-led gainer, Amber, there was Shipping Corporation of India, Welspun Corp was up about 7%, RHI Magnesia, K Fintech was a big mover. Bharat Forge, Spark, Nuvama, a capital market play, slowly, steadily rallying about 15% from recent lows. Kaveri Seeds has had a fantastic run, I think at a 52-week high. MCure, EQ Lightings is some of the other names which participated. In terms of losses, the big hits came through in the cables and wire segment. KEI, Polycab, Havells, really, some of the big volume-led losses. Paytm saw some profit booking, so did MobiKwik. These have done very well recently. Ola Electric, there was news here. HBL was up 15% yesterday, gave back some. Vijaya, Finolex Cables and Max Estates were some of the other names. So very solid gains, 3.5% so far with 1 day to go for the Nifty and 4% plus for the Nifty Bank. Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That was the equity market action. In the currency markets, the rupee rallying to near 2-month highs as it strengthened against the greenback for the 6th day. It is now 2% stronger than the all-time lows that it hit on the 10th of February. Latha standing by to take us through what's driving the rupee higher. Latha.
Sentiment of the rupee has diametrically changed, especially after the February trade deficit indicated. The deficit was like a 4-year low. Plus, if you counted surplus, it was the current account surplus, or rather a trade surplus, giving the a clear indication that in Jan, Feb, March, we will report a current account surplus, which means more dollars coming in than going out. Plus, you can see the FPI dollar outflow also thinning out. It's not yet zero every day. Now, that is leading to all the rupee shorts covering. There are all these corporate treasuries which take positions. They are in a hurry covering their rupee short positions or their dollar long positions. Plus, exporters are selling off their dollars in a hurry. They were probably expecting 87.5, etc. And now by March end, they will perhaps not get that kind of money. That flood of dollars is coming. Reserve Bank in a very comfortable position. Even last week's data indicated they had bought dollars, to prevent appreciation. And even today, the expectation is that they are buying dollars as well as taking old, allowing the old swaps to mature, which means they are selling dollars. They're buying more than they're selling. That keeps RBI in a comfortable position. All told, it looks like the rupee rally is here to stay. And if it is tapering off, then it's more because it is the Reserve Bank which is buying dollars.
All right, Latha, many thanks. And here's a little more about the big international news that's been driving global markets today. The fact that the U.S. Federal Reserve did not throw a curveball. As was widely expected, it did keep benchmark interest rates steady for the second consecutive time, indicating that at least 2 rate cuts are still likely later this year. The FOMC statement says the U.S. economy's growth this year is expected to be slower than the forecast from 3 months ago. The statement also noted an increase in uncertainty around economic outlook. The Fed chief added that the Trump administration's policies appear to have tilted the U.S. economy towards slower growth, while a good part of the higher inflation expectation was due to President Trump's tariffs. U.S. President Trump disagreed with the central bank's decision in a post on social media platform Truth Social. The president said the central bank would be much better off cutting rates. Steve Leesman is here with more on the Fed's decision.
The Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged at its March meeting in the range of 4.25% to 4.5%, but emphasized the uncertainty in the outlook linked to policy changes coming from the Trump administration. Throughout his press conference, Fed Chair Jay Powell made clear that the Fed is not especially confident in its outlook, but is in its current policy.
I'm confident that we're well positioned in the sense that we're well positioned to move in the direction we'll need to move. I don't know anyone who has a lot of confidence in their forecast. The point is we are at, we're at a place where we can cut, or we can hold what is clearly a restrictive stance of policy.
Fed officials in their projections raised their core inflation outlook for this year by 0.3 to 2.8%, most of which was linked to higher tariffs. They lowered the growth outlook by 0.4 for this year to 1.7%, and yet it kept its forecast unchanged for 2 rate cuts in 2025.
We understand that sentiment is quite negative at this time. And that probably has to do with, turmoil at the beginning of an administration that's making, big changes in areas of policy. And that's probably part of it. I do think the underlying unhappiness people have about the economy, though, is more at the price level.
Powell repeated that the Fed was focused on 2 options: cutting if there's clear economic weakness, and holding rates steady if inflation ends up being a problem. He continued to not mention rate hikes as an option. Steve Leesman, CNBC Business News.
Steve, many thanks for joining us. And staying with rate action from around the world, China's central bank has also kept its key lending rates unchanged as the country plans to boost growth and stabilize its currency in the face of rising trade tensions. China's one-year loan prime rate was held at 3.1% and the five-year rate was maintained at 3.6%. The five-year rates have remained stable since a 25 basis point cut in October. President Donald Trump has said that he expects India to reduce tariffs on American goods. In an interview to the Breitbart news network, Trump said that he believes India will lower tariffs substantially. However, he will be initiating reciprocal tariffs starting the 2nd of April. Trump also added that India is among the countries with the highest tariffs across the world. This is, of course, a reiteration of the statements that President Trump has been making for a while now. Meanwhile, President Trump said that he had a very good telephone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. The White House also said that President Trump has promised to help with a Ukrainian request to source more air defense batteries from Kyiv. Meanwhile, Zelensky said he had signed up to the partial ceasefire that Russia had agreed to a day earlier. He also described the call with President Trump as positive and frank.
Найпредметніше і позитивно.
Over the recent period, this is probably the most substantive conversation we've had. The mood was right and the conversation was sufficiently detailed. We discussed our next steps and the demand for partial ceasefire.
Щодо частково. І оце моє бачення. І президент запитав...
President Trump asked if there is an understanding that America could restore a nuclear power plant occupied by Russia. I told him this: if it's possible to modernize, invest money, etc., we are ready to discuss it with you. But we only spoke about one plant.
Про одну станцію, яка знаходиться під тимчасовою окупацією Росії.
That's President Zelenskky. Now back home, Ola Electric faces regulatory heat. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the government has sought details from the company on the mismatch in sales and registration data. Parikshit is standing by to take us through what seems to be the issue here. Parikshit, take us through what the problem is that the government is looking into.
Well, Ola Electric is now facing questions on multiple fronts. Let me begin with the action that is unfolding at the Ministry of Heavy Industries. Ministry of Heavy Industries is a nodal body for the automotive industry, for the implementation of the PLI scheme for the auto industry and the PM e-drive scheme. Ola is a beneficiary of both. Now, they are trying to find out why there is a discrepancy between what the company is claiming via stock exchange notification that 25,000 scooters were sold in February versus what the Vahan portal or the vehicle registration portal of the government shows as 8,700 vehicles sold in February. So they're trying to understand how this big gap has actually taken place. At the same time, there are also investigations, inspections taking place at the level of transport commissioners in different states. We can tell our viewers about what's happened in Punjab, in Madhya Pradesh, in places like Indore and Jabalpur, also in Maharashtra and Karnataka for that matter. In fact, there were 36 locations which were inspected by Maharashtra RTO authorities over the last 2 days, and we believe 34 to 36 scooters have been actually seized because they did not have proper registration documents. Trade certificates were not found, and most of the inspections that are taking place around the country through complaints of certain people, all of them relate to either the showroom or the experience center not having a fire certificate or a trade certificate. So trouble really building up for Ola Electric on multiple fronts here.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Now, the government-appointed Cabinet Committee on Security has approved a 7,000 crore rupee order to procure advanced Howitzers from the Indian defense equipment manufacturers. The acquisition has been cleared for 307 gun systems, and deliveries will be complete within 5 years of placing the order. Bharat Forge will account for 60% of the order book, and Tata Advanced Systems will account for the rest. Indian Overseas Bank has launched a qualified institutional placement to raise up to 2,000 crore rupees. The base size of the issue will be 1,000 crore rupees, and the bank has the option to increase the issue by another 1,000 crores. The state-run lender has fixed the price at nearly the QIP had been fixed at nearly 43 rupees. That's a discount of 2.5% of the stock's closing price yesterday. Adani Enterprises has now announced its entry into the wires and cables segment. In an exchange filing, the company said its wholly owned subsidiary, Kutch Copper, has completed the incorporation of a joint venture company, Pranitha Eco Cables. Vinny Motiwala joins us now with more. Vinny, again, we're seeing a lot of pressure on the cable stocks this afternoon on the back of Adani pouring into this space. Take us through what the ambition is.
Absolutely. So we're seeing increased competition coming in this cable and wire space. Now, Adani Enterprises has formed a JV for this cables and wires foray. Its subsidiary, 100% subsidiary, that's Kutch Copper Limited, has actually planned a 50-50 JV. This is with Parnita Ventures Private Limited, and this JV is going to be called Parnita Eco Cables Limited. This is the JV, and the details that we have so far is that they're going to be engaging in the business of manufacturing, marketing, distribution, buying and selling of metal products as well as cables and wire segment. Now, other than that, what we don't know the amount of investment that Adani Enterprise will be making. But previously, and in 2024, the company had said that it's Kutch Copper Limited, they will be investing $1.2 billion. This is going to be to set up a 1 million ton per annum copper plant, and this is going to be in Mundra, Gujarat. So this plant is still under construction. Is it going to be a part of this as well? And will the products be coming in from this side? What is going to be the benefit from this front? These details are still left, and this is something that everyone is watching out for in terms of clarity. Do not forget that, in Feb 2025, that's just a month ago, Ultratech Cement also announced its foray, like you were mentioning. So that is interesting because they have announced a capex plan of 1,800 crores capex in the next 2 years. So these two big entrants coming in into cables and wires has kept, the peers a bit jittery and increase in terms of competition, and a bit of a pressure has come in on all these other peer companies, whether you look at a KEI or Finolex cables, because of the entry of increased competition coming in here and a possible impact in terms of the EBITDA as well as return ratios for them as well.
Vinny, many thanks. And speaking of the Adani Group, the conglomerate is in advanced talks to acquire the India unit of Dubai-based realty developer MR Group. Reports suggest that the transaction will be valued potentially at $1.4 billion. The deal could include an unlisted Adani unit infusing about $400 million. In January, MR Group said they were in discussions with certain Indian companies, including Adani, about a potential stake sale in MR India. Prudential PLC will set up an Indian health insurance company in partnership with a subsidiary of the HCL Group. Prudential PLC subsidiary will hold a 70% stake in the venture, while HCL Group's Vama Sundari Investments will own the remaining 30%. We will head to a break, but up next, social media platform X moves the Karnataka High Court against the Indian government's power to take down content under the Information Technology Act. That and more when we return. Social media platform X has moved the Karnataka High Court against the Indian government's power to take down content under the Information Technology Act. It has argued that such orders are in violation of 2015 Supreme Court judgment. Ashmit is standing by to explain this. Ashmit, take us through the contours of X's plea in the High Court.
Well, Elon Musk owned X, taking objection to these takedown orders, seeking legal relief and knocking on the doors of the Karnataka High Court. What X has essentially said is flagged has been the use of Section 79. Now, under Section 79, the centre has the power to take away safe harbour protection from social media platforms, and by doing that, Centre can make these social media platforms liable for individual posts like users such as you and I may put out on this platform. Now, that is something that X has objected to, saying that this threat of taking away the safe harbour protection is being coupled with these takedown orders, and that is something that is illegal, that is arbitrary, that is unconstitutional. In fact, X has flagged this entire Sahyog portal that was introduced by the centre. This portal was introduced for essentially automating these takedown orders which can be issued to social media platforms. X is saying nothing doing, we don't want to be a part of it, we don't want to be a part of the Sahyog portal. Not just that, X in his petition has also flagged that a 2015 Supreme Court judgment very clearly pointed out that there are safeguards in place under the IT Act, under Section 69, such as the requirement of a court order, such as there being the requirement of a review committee. None of these safeguards are being complied with, and therefore these takedown orders are in blatant violation of the Supreme Court verdict. So with that, X seeking relief from the Karnataka High Court. And also important to point out that this issue of takedown orders is independent of responses being generated by Govt. That inquiry which the centre has launched, which the centre is probing X on as to why is Govt generating the kind of responses that it is independent of these takedown orders. These are two unrelated issues regarding the same company. X, for now, at least as far as this petition is concerned, before the Karnataka High Court, seeking relief against the takedown orders.
Ashwin, many thanks. A parliamentary committee report on the Prime Minister's internship scheme has highlighted that only 48 crore rupees have been spent till February versus 2,000 crore rupees allocated for FY25. The report also highlights that the budget for the scheme has been sharply increased to over 10,000 crore rupees with an aim to support 15 lakh internships. The panel also questioned the significant rise in allocation and urged the government to ensure smoother execution before scaling up. Israeli airstrikes into the Gaza Strip continue, with local hospitals reporting close to 60 deaths overnight. Hamas says that mediators have stepped up efforts to halt Israel's offensive, but no breakthrough yet. The US has carried out airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen's capital, Sana'a. This was in response to Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping. The strikes hit multiple areas in the region, injuring at least 9 people. In national news, at least 1 security personnel and 22 Maoists have been killed in 2 separate encounters in Chhattisgarh's Bastar division. The operation took place in the districts of Bijapur and Kanker. Search operations underway to locate more Naxals in the area. Punjab police has launched an eviction drive at Shambhu and Kanori border points, removing protesting farmers and dismantling their temporary structures. The border points had remained closed for over a year due to the ongoing protests. Several farmer leaders were detained. Farmer bodies have slammed the AAP government and announced that they would hold sit-down protests across the state. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.